All right, we're here. Wednesday night. Time to talk 49ers, who have just signed Isaiah Oliver a little bit earlier today. And I have to ask, is their starting defense now set after picking up the former Falcons defensive back on our athletics list of the top 150 free agents? Isaiah Oliver ranked number 55. So the 49ers have gotten the top defensive free agent on the board, Javon Hargrave, and a fairly highly rated defensive back in wave 2/wave 3 of free agency. That's Isaiah Oliver. And this, in my opinion, might be the 49ers starting nickel defense. Now, teams play nickel 70% of the time. A big reason why the 49ers were totally okay letting Azeez Al-Shire walk, because $6 million for the Titans, that's a lot of money for a player that, if Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner are both healthy, is only going to be on the field about 30% of the time. Most of the time in the league this age of football, you're going to be in your nickel defense. So you're going to have 2 linebackers and you're going to have 5 defensive backs with obviously that nickel back out there. And I think the 49ers signed this guy, Isaiah Oliver, to be their slot cornerback. Played 246 snaps in the slot for Atlanta last season. So slot corner listed there with the 49ers defense right here. So this is what I think the starting defense is going to look like. Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, and Drake Jackson across the front. Linebackers, 2 of them, as I just said, Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. That's the best duo in the game right now. And then the 2 corners on the outside, Charvarius Ward and Deommodore Lenoir. Your nickelback is the new signing, Isaiah Oliver. And your 2 safeties, Talanoa Hufanga and the recently re-signed Deshaun Gibson. Who says no? Now, can the 49ers get better when you look at that starting lineup? Yeah, they can add another edge rusher. There are plenty of edge rushers still on the market. The run on the edge rushers has not really gotten going in earnest. Some of the 49ers edge rushers, some of the Kasarik guys went last night in Arden Key, Sansom Ebukam, Charles Amenahu, but there's still a lot more on the board. Yannick Ngakoue, Leonard Floyd, Matt Barrows loves Leonard Floyd for the 49ers, thinks he'd be a good fit. Frank Clark still out there, Bud Dupree, Jadeveon Clowney, who I've heard wants $10 million a year. He's waiting patiently. He likes to wait during free agency. He's not a first wave kind of guy. Dante Fowler Jr., LJ Collier, a lot of names still available if the 49ers want to spruce up the edge rushing cadre. Take a closer look at this proposed starting defense for the 49ers. But if the season started today, this would be the starting defense for the 49ers. And obviously, you need a lot from Drake Jackson. You need a lot of improvement from Drake Jackson. And very obviously, the entire defense is not set yet. That's why I say starting defense right there in the caption, because the 49ers have lost a lot of pieces on both sides of the football. But the thing is, with their roster building strategy that I've talked about since yesterday, since I put out that tweet talking about the fact that the 49ers hold on to A-listers. They pay A-listers, but they let B-listers walk. We've seen a pretty big exodus, right? We've seen Ebukam, we've seen Amenahu, both B-list edge rushers leave. So the 49ers' rotational depth is not what it was at the end of the season. But it's, ridiculous that some people will get on social media now and be like, oh, the 49ers are worse now than they were. Well, no shit, they're worse, right? I mean, you've lost your good team, a deep team, and you've lost your B-listers to free agency, and you haven't yet had a chance to replenish that well. They have 57 players on the roster right now. They need to get it up to 90. It is unfair to judge a roster fully until it gets up to 90. So I'm talking about the 49ers starting defense. Depth-wise, of course, it's not where it was last year yet, but they still have 33 roster spots to get there. All right, so the next few days, that's going to be stage 3 of free agency, like wave 3 of free agency, and then everything leading up until the draft, and then the draft itself, where the 49ers currently have 11 picks. That's where they're going to fill out this roster, and that's where the depth is going to come in, and they have to pick specific depth that fits their system, fits what their coaching staff is trying to accomplish, and then hopefully, for the 49ers' sake, by the time OTAs are over, training camp is over, the season rolls along, and the team rounds into form in 2023, the depth is as effective as some of the depth that just left. That's how you keep the line moving in the National Football League. But the starting lineup, as you could see up on the screen, is looking strong. I mean, Bosa and Hargrave on the same side, rushing, that's going to cause a lot of problems. Eric Armstead, he's going to cause a lot of problems. I think Drake Jackson, when he's matched up with those three stud veteran defensive linemen, I think he's ready to take the next step. 49ers just signed Clelin Ferrell today, so he's going to be part of that mix. They already started building the depth that I'm talking about, and we could discuss Ferrell and everything a little bit later in the show. But the front line right now impresses me. I look at the front line and I'm like, ooh, that, the D line of the front line defense, that's, those are some grown men up there. And Eric Armstead, Javon Hargrave, Nick Bosa, Drake Jackson's got to follow suit. But when three other guys are occupying all the blockers' attention, then I think Drake Jackson and his bend, his explosiveness is going to stand out. The linebackers are the best in football. Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. I don't think there's any question about that anymore. I think Levante David re-signed today with Tampa Bay, and I saw that he was 33 years old. I'm like, oh, okay, well, the 49ers, that debate is over, right? A couple of years ago, people were like, oh, Tampa Bay's linebackers might be a little bit better than the 49ers. No, Tampa Bay's linebackers are old. 49ers have Warner, Greenlaw, both, I think entering their primes. They're both young. These are both guys in their mid to high 20s, right? Like not closer to the mid 20s than the high 20s. So that linebacker core is great. And, last year this was a coverage over rush defense, or at least it evolved in that direction with a defensive line not being as good outside of Nick Bosa as it had been before. Picking up Isaiah Oliver for that nickelback position is really big because you talk about defenses getting old. Jimmy Ward, wrong side of 30. Isaiah Oliver is more of a dedicated nickelback. I mean, he's played there a lot. He could play corner too, so he gives Steve Wilks, the new defensive coordinator, his positional adaptability. They're going to be able to run a lot of complex coverages. They're going to be able to disguise stuff. But Isaiah Oliver is a younger Jimmy Ward. He could play nickel. He could play corner. He could play safety. He's 26 instead of the wrong side of 30. Diamara Lenore peaked at the end of last season. I mean, he was peaking. They got to hope that continues, unlike Ambry Thomas the year before, who didn't carry it over into 2022. But Diamara Lenore impressing the hell out of the 49ers. Charvarius Ward, they just restructured his deal, tacked on all those void years. That means that they really like Charvarius Ward. They're willing to take that chance with him. That means they're not going to be cutting him anytime soon. In fact, it makes Charvarius Ward a prime extension candidate when his deal's up here in a couple of years. But Charvarius Ward was worth every penny of his original contract, and the 49ers are betting that he's going to be worth every penny of the restructured contract as well. And then at safety, Talanoa Hufanga, all-pro in his first season starting, and Deshaun Gibson. I've mentioned the Gibson stats. Number one in missed tackle rate amongst all safeties, lowest missed tackle rate. Number two in passer rating allowed, 5 picks. Jaquiski Tartt had 4 in 7 seasons. Gibson had 5 in 1. He might be 33 next year. You talk about age issues. They only signed him to a 1-year deal, though. And I think they're going to draft a safety. I really do. I think that they're going to try to draft their safety of the future and let him learn under Deshaun Gibson, former Pro Bowler who made a good case to be a Pro Bowler again at age 32 this past year. So if you look at this starting defense, 49ers were already number 1 in the league last year defensively. And I mean, I think the front line has gotten better. I think this starting defense is better than last year's because you have Javon Hargrave. I mean, the biggest weakness of the 49ers defense last year was the interior pass rush. Armstead was hurt for a lot of it. Kinlaw was hurt for a lot of it. The other guys just didn't get pressure. They had a total of 8 guys not named Armstead who generated 59 pressures throughout all of last season. Javon Hargrave generated 66 on his own. So all of a sudden, the biggest weakness, which is right here, the interior defensive line, that's been ameliorated big time with Javon Hargrave's addition. You still need more depth. I get it. I'm talking about the starting lineup right now. And you hope that Drake Jackson takes another step because Nick Bosa is a stud. Linebackers only getting better. And that secondary, well, Isaiah Oliver is built to play slot, built to play corner. Jimmy Ward was a safety playing nickelback last year. He was playing out of position, and it took him a little while to get used to the position. So, and Diamara Lenore wasn't as good as he finished the season earlier. So this defensive starting lineup, to me, looks better than it did last year. People will tell me otherwise. I feel that I'm taking crazy pills because on paper, I just went through why it's better than last year. And the rest of the offseason, it's going to be up to the 49ers to cultivate the kind of depth that they need to cultivate. And, talking about depth, they signed former Raider Clelin Ferrell today. Should go to our free agent tracker. I think we got a picture of Ferrell. We should at least. Here he is, taking down Christian McCaffrey. So this is the former number 4 overall pick, 2019 draft, but he only had 10 sacks for the Raiders over the course of, 4 seasons for the Raiders. So he didn't have the kind of twitch that I think that, you really need to be an A-list pass rusher in the NFL. But he could play the run well. 49ers really need that. By the way, Isaiah Oliver plays the run really well. 49ers have 2 of the best run defending corners in football, and Charvarius Ward and Isaiah Oliver, which is important, really important in the context of the defense that the 49ers run, because you've got to earn the right to rush the passer. To do that, you have to stop the run. To do that, the corners crack down a lot. If both Oliver, and he might be coming from nickel a lot, that's closer to the line. If both Oliver and Charvarius Ward are good against the run, that spells a lot of good times to the 49ers defense. But you look at Ferrell here. Went from the Raiders, their jerseys right there. See the Shane Leckler jersey, to the 49ers. Their jerseys right there. See the Frank Gore jersey. So Ferrell went from silver and black to the red and gold. And this guy can play the run. You could see him playing Christian McCaffrey right there. Pass rushing skills, modest. But guess what? He gets to work with Chris Kasarik. And this is the Chris Kasarik development path, which embodies the 49ers system in a nutshell. Bring in B-list, C-list players, bring in the C-listers, develop them into B-listers, let the B-listers walk. If they turn into A-listers, keep them and pay them, but you can let the B-listers walk. And if they do walk, then you get comp picks back in return. It already worked with Arden Key. It's going to work with Charles Menahu. It's going to work with Samson Ebukam. All those guys got paid because Chris Kasarik was there to develop them into guys that did get paid. And now the torch is passed to Clelin Ferrell. Only 10 sacks in 4 years for the Raiders. But hey, Arden Key only had 3 in 3 years, and then he turned around 6.5 after learning from Chris Kasarik. So Ferrell is that depth piece that starts to add to the bulk of the 49ers defense, and most particularly their defensive line. All right. I am going to message Mike for something, because I need to know a little piece of information. Then I'm going to open up something else that you might like. Let's check it out here. It was a good day on the Twitter app. This right here is Isaiah Oliver's spider chart. He's got long arms, long wingspan. He's heavy enough to play the run physically, 80th percentile weight for defensive backs, and good hand size. So that he could play the football. His arms could get into all the throwing lanes. And this is why I think he's a good nickel back, because he's not particularly fast. The 40-yard dash is about average, 50th percentile. But I think he's got the short area quickness, and obviously he's got the arm length to make stuff work on the inside. Now, Steve Wilks is going to be able to run I think an inside-out defense here. By that, I mean sometimes Oliver can line up outside. He can follow receivers outside of the 49ers are doing some more man-based concepts, and Diamond Lenore can shift inside. They've been talking about Diamond Lenore as a nickel for a long time. And, we figured that if they re-signed Emmanuel Mosley, and Emmanuel Mosley was able to blossom into a good outside cornerback coming off the ACL tear, that maybe Diamond Lenore's spot would be on the inside in the slot. Well, obviously Mosley's in Detroit, priced himself out, what the 49ers were asking. But Isaiah Oliver is now in San Francisco playing that slot cornerback position. He could play inside out. You could shift them around. Steve Wilks, DB background as the defensive coordinator. Coverages are about to become more complex for the 49ers moving forward. All right. You will also like this. This is Chris Kasarik on developing defensive linemen. So why don't we go back to the Chris Kasarik development path, open this up, and we can read a little bit. This is the kind of stuff the 49ers fans might want to inject into their veins. This is from my interview with Chris Kasarik last year, but it applies very directly to what's been going on here and what will continue going on with the 49ers now that they have Yet another reclamation project in that D-line room. Quote from Chris Kasarik: I just wake up every morning and I put my feet on the ground and say, I'm going to give it every single thing I got from the second I get in there to the second I leave, Kasarik said. I'm just going to pour everything I have into the players. Let them know I'm going to be demanding of you. I'm going to ask a lot of you. I'm going to try to push you past limits that you may not think you can get past. But with all that said, I promise you that I have your best interests at heart. I want to help you reach your potential. I want to help you become the player that you envision in your head. I'm going to give you every single ounce of energy, effort, and knowledge that I have to try to help you become that player. Try to help them make as much money as they can in this league to help them financially for their families. Boom. Chris Kasarik just did that, right? Chris Kasarik just did that for Arden Key. He just did that for Charles Amenahu. He just did that for Sansa Mebucom. Now can you do it for Clelin Ferrell? Coach the hell out of him, develop him, perpetuate the 49ers' reputation as a factory for defensive linemen. And, I mean, we talked about it earlier today in my 5 points of how the 49ers build their franchise. The coaching development is so important. Not just developing your coaches, but then your coaches turn around and develop the players. And it turns into a factory where the input, are these C, D list players. The output is or A or B list players. And if they're B list players, that's going to turn into comp picks for the team. And if you have comp picks, well, then you've got capital to go out and get more guys to develop. So the coaching staff is, that's the main cog of the factory that is producing the good football players. And the 49ers, I think, by league consensus, have the best roster right now in the NFL. And in my opinion, it's only gotten stronger along the front lines during the course of free agency. I mean, we can go back to this, right? This is the starting defense right now. And if that's the starting defense, it's looking better than it did in 2021. But it's about building the depth. And you know what? Guys like Chris Kasarik are around there to build that depth. I'm going to retweet this one more time. Get this out to people. Want to read about the 49ers D-line coach who is really emblematic of how this team is surging. So that was today. 49ers signing Isaiah Oliver, signing Clelin Ferrell. Saw him restructure Fred Warner last night. The cap space for the 49ers, well, I could see where they're at with some of these new contracts. I went out to dinner tonight, and I will see if there's an update on some of the contracts that the 49ers have inked. Nope, nothing new. We're still waiting on numbers for Jake Brendel, and he signed 2 days ago. We don't have numbers on Ferrell yet. We don't have numbers on Isaiah Oliver yet. It is a 2-year deal, though, for Isaiah Oliver. So I'm guessing the 49ers are at around, I want to say, it depends on how much Oliver gets, right? They could be around $7-8 million of cap space. They're going to need about $9.3 million to sign their 11-player draft class, but that's not for a couple months. So for the time being, the 49ers can just chill. For the time being, they can continue signing players to efficient deals. Again, we'll see where Isaiah Oliver's deal is. And they can fill out free agency. They can prepare themselves for the draft. They're beneficiaries right now, the top 51 rule. Only the top 51 most valuable contracts count against the cap during this portion of the offseason. By the way, happy new league year. Speaking of the top 51 rule, took effect today. That started today at 1 p.m. Pacific. So the 49ers can keep this train rolling with free agency. They've got enough space. And then when the time comes, they are going to restructure another contract, maybe cut somebody. I don't know, whatever they need to do to open up enough space to sign that draft class, which, by the way, is going to be cheaper than it normally is because the draft is slotted by round and pick, and they don't have a first-round pick. They don't have a second-round pick. They don't pick until number 99 in the third round, which means that the draft for 11 players only costs $9.3 million against the cap. And that's $9.3 million against the top 50 against the 53-man cap, not the top 51 rule, which would be cheaper than that. So the 49ers are in a good financial situation. I don't think they're in an unsustainable situation like the Rams got themselves into. They don't want to restructure all too much, which is why they're trying to find efficiency with some of these deals in a new league year. But I think that they're staying ahead of the wave. They're surfing the wave. You can't let that wave collapse on you. Again, the spending can grow year to year because the cap is growing. You just can't get ahead of yourself on the growing spending. And the 49ers have pushed a lot with some of these restructures into potential hits in 2025. That might be a moment of truth, but they're gambling that the cap is going to go up enough by then with all these new NFL revenue deals, right? YouTube TV for NFL Red Zone and Amazon, all that. They're hoping that the cap rises enough so that they get into good position. Oh my gosh, 6 minutes left in the game, and Curry has 48 points. So, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the Warriors game on YouTube TV, and we're going to be watching the Warriors game together while we talk about the 49ers and we ask some questions. Let's talk 49ers and watch the Warriors. Cool. All right. I'm getting YouTube TV on. Give me a second. That's why nobody's watching because the Warriors are playing. Should have known that. Oh, they're playing the Clippers. Cool. All right. I could live with this. Let's talk 49ers and watch the Warriors. Let's see where they're at. And, I realize some of you probably watching on TV. So if you are, you're probably going to be a little. Let's talk 49ers. Warriors down 7. You know how long NBA games can take. We got 5 minutes and 55 seconds left here on YouTube TV. I'm looking at Kawhi Leonard. God, that logo, like the font that the Clippers use for their LA logo is hideous. Some bad uniforms. There's Curry. Cool. But I have starting at QB for Tennessee week 1. Don't they have Ryan Tannehill, like, under contract with a ton of dead money? It seems like it would be Tannehill, but hey, maybe Rand Carthon will go crazy with that. We'll see. Yeah, Ferrell's not gonna be the main guy on the line because Derek has done it before. He's gonna be a rotational piece, and I think, that's who he is as a player. Number 4 overall pick, but you forget about that. You let Chris Kaserik cook. You give Chris Kaserik the ingredients, and he can cook. And I think that Clelin Ferrell is one of those ingredients. The score of the Warriors game is Clippers 118, Warriors 111, 5:35 left. So we'll keep an eye on it here. Playing on YouTube TV, and they don't even let me broadcast it on YouTube. I think that would be some kind of copyright violation. I think the NBA owns the right to that. Steph Curry free throws knocks one down. So I always wonder, why we don't have as many viewers. Mike said that we have something like 315 or something right now, and then I realized, oh, the Warriors are playing. That always cuts us down by 200 or 300 viewers because people are watching the Warriors, especially these games are really important right now coming down to the wire there in the playoff race. So we can talk about the 49ers while the Warriors are in this game. Curry actually missed one of the free throws. How can the Niners still improve the offensive line? They need more depth. They really wanted to re-sign Daniel Brunskill. They weren't able to. Priced out of the 49ers range, went to Tennessee instead. So in the case of the offensive line, I always talk about needing at least 7 quality bodies, preferably 8. And Daniel Brunskill was really valuable to the 49ers because he was able to play every single position. He did play every single position over the course of his 4 years with the 49ers. So you're going to have to find somebody who's a Swiss Army knife like that. Is it Jalen Moore? Maybe Jalen Moore can give you a little bit of that moving forward. I think that, at center, they now have Keith Ishmael to be the backup to Jake Brendel. So you don't need Daniel Brunskill to be the backup anymore, but you still need somebody who can deliver at the swing tackle roles. And maybe that's Colton McKivitz, but then he can't be a starter at right tackle, right? So you just need more bodies along the offensive line. And I get it. You don't have a lot of money right now. Orlando Brown just signed for what, 16 million per year, 31 million signing bonus, which is a record for offensive linemen. So, I mean, you have all that stuff going on. You're not going to get an A-lister like Orlando Brown, but I think you could still find players that fit into your scheme that can give you the depth that Daniel Brunskill helped bring you to allow that offensive line to keep on improving. Now, I think the offensive line will improve naturally in a way because listen, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, and Spencer Burford, left guard, center, right guard, were all first year starters last season. So you count naturally on improvement from Aaron Banks. You can count naturally on improvement for Jake Brendel. You can count naturally on improvement from Spencer Burford. First year starters, moving into second year starters, there should be natural improvement there. You also have to count on Trent Williams to hold steady. Once he starts declining, it's going to be tough for the 49ers offensive line, but he hasn't shown signs of a decline yet, even as he progresses into his 30s. And then if you assume there's going to be improvement from left guard to right guard and that Trent Williams is going to be Trent Williams, it's left tackle. Left tackle is the question. Oh, Steph Curry. Oh no, that's Dante DiVincenzo was nailed a three. It's 120, 115, under 5 minutes to go. I looked over, I saw a swish, thought it was Curry, and then I saw DiVincenzo going crazy the other way. Uh-oh. I think that was Paul George hitting one back the other way. Paul George, by the way, Fresno State, Clippers up 8. So that's how you improve the offensive line. You continue developing guys, and then you take care of right tackle and depth through your player acquisition process. You got 11 draft picks, and you could do a whole lot more stuff too if you're the 49ers with free agency as far as finding some Swiss Army knife type of players. Losing Daniel Brunskill, though, not nothing. That did hurt. Nick Zakel has not played in the game yet. You are correct. Warriors down 6, 4 minutes to go. Warriors can't grab a rebound or to save their lives. How good is Oliver? I think Oliver's a really good player. Oliver is coming off of his best season. Oliver, by the way, he played a lot of slot this past year. On throws into his coverage, he gave up a 72.4 passer rating. That would have been good for number 7 out of all qualifying cornerbacks in football. Under 4 minutes to go. Warriors trying to get a big stop. How many people we have watching, Mike? Warriors could not get the big stop. This is a really frustrating Warriors team this year. I heard that Warriors Twitter is even more toxic than 49ers Twitter. Oh, is the sound not good? How am I sounding? If I'm not sounding good because this YouTube thing is on, I'm gonna have to get my other computer. Let me mute the YouTube. Is the sound better now? Mike, let me know. Warriors down 6, 3:20 to go. I'll keep on answering 49ers questions. They can't play defense. The Warriors just on the road cannot play defense. It is the craziest thing. They're dominant at home, and on the road, they're just going to be giving up 140 to 150 in these games. They just gave up another bucket, by the way, as you can probably tell. And they missed on the other end. So, doesn't look promising for the Warriors. It looks like they're landing another one of their road clunkers, which has typically happened. They're going to have to find a way out of this cycle because otherwise, they're not going to have home court advantage in the playoffs, even if they make it. And they're just a bad team on the road. All right, good. Perfect sound. I appreciate you. Thank you. Oliver is solid. Yes. I probably won't have a guest from the audience come on to a video because I don't know who anybody is, and I don't want to invite somebody I don't want to invite on. But I'll take questions. I feel this is good. Your picture's up there, Wesley, so you're technically on the show. That's fun, right? More guests in general, though. I think I'll bring on some guests. Just it has to be people that I actually know. I've been talking about Justin Houston as a potential defensive end that the 49ers could bring in. He's older, though. He's like 34. But again, there are other guys. There's Ngakoue, like I was saying. There's Jadeveon Clowney. Again, there could be a situation where some of the players that I'm listing right now are at a price point that's just too high for the 49ers. So they're not going to do that. But somebody like Justin Houston might fit a little bit better. And if they have a defined role for him and they think that he could pressure the passer in certain situations opposite Nick Bosa with Hargrave in there, they might do it. Maybe somebody like Justin Houston's got some juice. Maybe he deserves to be paid a little bit more. And he says, no, I want to take a discount because I want to win a title with the 49ers. Crazier stuff has happened. So all I'm saying is that while they do have to add to the edge rusher position still, they obviously do. They still have probably 3 to 4 to even 5 more slots to dedicate to defensive linemen on the 90-man roster. While they have to do that, I don't think they're going to do it in a massive, splashy financial kind of way. I think they're going to do it in a cost-efficient way because that's where the money leads us. We follow the money and we see what the 49ers are doing. 49ers will draft a kicker or sign Robbie Gould. That's my bold prediction. I think they'll re-sign Robbie Gould to draft a kicker. I don't think they're going to take an intermediary route. I think they're either going to save all the money that they can by getting a rookie kicker, or they're going to find a way to get Robbie Gould back on a deal that they really, really can work with. DiVincenzo missed another 3. Looks like the Warriors are going to keep the ball, though. So, yeah, players have actually talked about coming onto the show. I just haven't, Mike does a great job. He does a lot of the back end work, and I'm still running a lot just like here from my own computer, which bringing in a player, putting up the text titles and everything. I'm doing a lot at once, and then you have to start booking, guests and all that. And as time goes by and we have more and more fun with the channel, and I get a little bit more comfortable doing everything at once, putting stuff up on the screen. As that happens, I promise you're going to see more guests, and it's going to turn into a show that makes people even more happy. I'm glad that people enjoy it as much as they do right now. I want to hear more from Greasy. Brian Greasy would be a cool guest, talking about the QB position. It'd be a cool guest. Kurt Benkert would be a cool guest in the quarterback room last year. Maybe talk to him. You think Clowney's been wanting to be on the 49ers? Well, if he wants to be on the 49ers, he's going to have to ask for less than $10 million per year, which is supposedly what he wants. Warriors down 10, 2:26 to go. Time for Curry to go crazy. Yeah, Benkert's a fun follow on Twitter. Curry just missed. Curry is not going crazy. He's getting double teamed. No news on Gould. Yeah, I mean, Gould might be negotiating in silence. He might be talking to the 49ers again. Everything seems unclear. I got a bluffing vibe from him a couple weekends ago when that all happened. So, in the case of Robbie Gould, I think, he bluffed already in 2019. Could be another bluffing vibe from him here in 2023. Yeah, I think I'm about ready to turn off this Warriors game. The way to do it to avoid like the copyright issues would be to have a TV behind me, so you guys can watch the game over my shoulder. But I'm sure some of you are watching at home anyway. I'm watching it here just to the right up on the screen. Good thing about fiber internet is that it can handle 1080p streaming and the Warriors game. Steph Curry, 50 points. 8 of 14. Yeah, 50 points, but they're going to lose by double digits. Most 50-plus point games after turning 30 in NBA history. Steph Curry has tied the record. 7. Wilt Chamberlain also had 7. And Michael Jordan had 6. So Curry just passed Jordan with his 7th game scoring 50 points or more after the age of 30. It's crazy. It's wild to think that Steph Curry's in his mid-30s. Time flies, doesn't it? I still remember when his ankle was a constant issue when he was really young, all those years ago. I want to say it was probably around 09, right? Right after he was drafted. Yeah, I think 09, 2010. Those years, by 09 to 12 was when Steph Curry's ankle was a thing. I think there was a Twitter account called Steph Curry's ankle. It just goes to show you that, in any sport, guys, you could say, oh, he's injury prone, he's frail, whatever. Or, guys can figure out how to stay healthy. Stuff can turn around. It's never smart to give up on somebody too early. Imagine if the Warriors had given up on Steph Curry back in the early 2010s. That wouldn't have been good. I do believe the 49ers will extend Brandon Aiyuk next season. The 49ers, their formula is to cultivate a group of A-list players and to pay that group of A-list players. Don't let them leave. They technically did let Buckner leave. I think that was the exception and not the rule. Buckner also wasn't a player that this regime drafted back in 2020. But Aiyuk is homegrown. A-list player, we'll see. This year will determine if he falls into that A-list. I think he's put up a 1,000-yard receiving season. That's great. If he puts up 2 in a row, if he beats man coverage at the rate that he beat it last year, he's going to be part of that club that the 49ers pay. Now, the salary cap goes up every single season if NFL revenues go up. It's only dipped once with the whole COVID after effect disaster. Assuming that stuff like that doesn't happen moving forward and the cap keeps on rising, the 49ers will have money to increase the size of that A-list core. And then they could, the more comp picks that you get, now it's really game over for the Warriors. Clippers knocked down a 3. Paul George, it's 132, 119. I'm just going to shut this off. Boom, it's off. We're not watching that anymore. Warriors suck on the road. Terrible. Anyway, so the more success you have in the comp pick game and in the draft game and in some of the trade games like the 49ers have seen. I mean, they traded Jonas Griffith and they got a draft pick back. They traded Jeff Wilson. They got a draft pick back. The better you do there, because all those draft picks are cost controlled, the bigger your A-list core can be, because the surrounding talent is acquired on the cheap through draft picks, acquired on the cheap through undrafted free agent signings, right? You trust your scouting department and you trust your coaching development to build out the depth of the roster. And then the star power is what is the spearhead to big wins. And the star power can get bigger and bigger if the cap gets bigger every year and if you curtail and limit your spending elsewhere. And the way to do that is to get compensatory picks. Well, I think the 49ers, here's the thing with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think the 49ers, I think Kyle Shanahan looks at quarterbacks a little too specifically, a little like the Shanahan relationship with QBs is very, very particular. He wants them to be an extension of himself. He likes the control. And we're going to have Garoppolo debates until the end of time. But I think it's clear that Kyle Shanahan didn't value Jimmy Garoppolo as much as others valued Jimmy Garoppolo. There's going to be a debate, and maybe his time with the Raiders is going to help solve this debate. How valuable was Jimmy Garoppolo to Kyle Shanahan? Because so far, yeah, Shanahan had the wins with Purdy and an all-star team last year, but the record with and without Jimmy Garoppolo still markedly better with Jimmy Garoppolo than without him. Garoppolo's third down efficiency, awesome. Garoppolo's overall efficiency, behind only Mahomes and Breeze since 2017. So obviously, I think there is a component of Garoppolo benefiting from some of Shanahan's play calling. But the question that has yet to be answered is how much of a linchpin was Garoppolo to Shanahan and what he wanted to do offensively? How much was this quarterback play necessary for the 49ers to keep the line moving? And Shanahan obviously said, I think it's replaceable. I think that I don't have to pay up. I don't have to pay top dollar for Jimmy Garoppolo because I could replace him either with Trey Lance or Brock Purdy kind of fell into their laps there in the 7th round. But we'll see if he's right. We'll see if over the long term he's right. Now, the Jimmy Garoppolo situation was complicated by the fact that he got hurt a lot. Kyle Shanahan will tell you he thinks he's a really good quarterback, but he got hurt too often, and that availability is the best ability. So that's why they didn't extend him any further. That could be part of the calculus here, right? And, it's also colored by the fact that quarterback contracts are way more expensive than the contracts for any other position. So you can talk about paying your A-listers all day, and you could probably fit it in any cap scenario because most positions are affordable enough with a rising cap. But quarterback contracts have gone crazy to a whole other level, to where the $25 million that Jimmy Garoppolo just signed for per year with the Raiders, despite coming off multiple injuries over multiple seasons and his availability being a concern, That number, that would have been the number one contract in the QB world just about 5 or 6 years ago. So the quarterback market's exploded. We're talking like a $59 million option that's going to kick in for Aaron Rodgers. Just goes to show you just how much sheer money is sitting there at that position. So maybe that's the one position that doesn't really fit into the whole A-list discussion. Ironically, because it's the most important one, and people talk about franchise quarterbacks, like the guys that you have to keep on your A-list. But I think the 49ers are looking at the QB position a little bit differently. They're building numbers with a cheap QB room while they are splurging on A-listers at every other position. Every single other position, the 49ers seem happy and willing to pay guys. But at quarterback, yeah, they paid Garoppolo back in 2018, but that was really early in this franchise building process. When are they next going to pay a quarterback? That's what I want to know, because right now they're focused on paying the rest of the A-listers, building a strong roster around the QB. When are they going to pay the QB himself? Because right now they're benefiting from economically efficient quarterback deals. $14.1 million is the total combined cap hit for Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, and Sam Darnold. That's not a lot at all, considering that Aaron Rodgers is going to make $59 million this year. So they have that, economically taken care of in the QB room, and therefore they are spending elsewhere. So the quarterback situation might be a little bit different when you look in terms of the A-list theory that I have, the 5 steps that the 49ers use to build their roster. I think Garoppolo might have started it off. Remember, Garoppolo broke the record with his contract in 2018, $27.5 million per year. So, I mean, he didn't start it off. Derek Carr signed one before him. Every contract was bigger than the one prior to it. But the market has just exploded. I think what really has happened is that the rules in the NFL have very rapidly shifted to accommodate more offense. So what's happened is teams are paying more and more to quarterbacks because they see that as the ticket to winning a title. But then there's the antidote to quarterbacks. If you can rush the passer effectively from the edges and from the inside, not give him time to throw. That's why edge rushers, that's why Javon Hargrave, those guys are making $20+ million. So it's definitely a philosophical question that relates really closely to the status of the league and ongoing trends in the National Football League. Mike, how many viewers are we at? I am curious. Yeah, and Jimmy Garoppolo did play his best football under Brian Griese this past year. Well, he played really well in 2017, but it was less scripted in 2017. He was kind of freewheeling, which, is a little bit of an indictment of Kyle Shanahan. If Jimmy Garoppolo's very best football came when he had been coached the least by Kyle Shanahan, I guess you have to toss the ACL tear in there and have that as a caveat. But think about it. Jimmy Garoppolo did not return to his 2017 level of play efficiency-wise really until, well, he had a good stretch in 2021, but in 2022, until he had Christian McCaffrey and all this talent around him. But he was just knocking the lights off in 2017 with a much worse supporting cast, and that was before he had absorbed Shanahan's coaching. So why did he, in theory, get worse, less efficient? And he was always very efficient, but he was not nearly as efficient as 2017. Why did he get less efficient with the more time that he had under Shanahan? Everybody talks about, Shanahan helped him. Shanahan did that. Shanahan makes these QBs. But this works both ways. And I think that it's a QB management thing. It's a people managing thing. It's something that the quarterback helps the coach and the coach helps the quarterback. And that's a back and forth that Kyle Shanahan can improve with as time progresses. And he's going to have plenty of quarterbacks to coach here in order to improve. He's going to get practice to improve with Brock Purdy, with Trey Lance, and with Sam Darnold in tow for the 49ers. Remember when Michigan started Griese over Brady? Good times. Crazy that Griese is now a quarterback's coach, and he's already done like a decade in broadcasting, and Brady just now retired. Teammates over in Michigan. Rodgers on McAfee. Thought it was funny that he called out Adam Schefter. That was good. I don't know what else happened. Oh yeah, the Jets. So that's cool. Matt LaFleur and Robert Saleh. So Matt LaFleur, the coach of the Packers, and Robert Saleh, the coach of the Jets. They were roommates in 2004 when they were graduate assistants, not making a lot of money at Central Michigan. The head coach was Brian Kelly, who's now the head coach of LSU. So these two guys were roommates, and they were probably like eating ramen and stuff. I mean, they were out of college by that point, but it didn't seem like it was all too glamorous in Central Michigan, which is it Central Michigan and Kalamazoo, Michigan? Or am I getting the Michigan cities wrong? Anyway, these guys are roommates, and less than 20 years later, they are the successive head coaches of Aaron Rodgers in the NFL. Assuming the Packers do finalize this and trade Aaron Rodgers to the Jets, they still have to take care of that one small detail. But Matt LaFleur had Aaron Rodgers, and then his former roommate Robert Saleh is going to have Aaron Rodgers in New York. Good stuff for the Jets. I mean, they were top 5 defense last year, and now they have Aaron Rodgers on the offensive end. Should make some noise here moving forward. And it's funny because Aaron Rodgers has followed that Brett Favre path, 39-year-old quarterback heading to the New York Jets. I wasn't surprised by the Sam Darnold signing, to answer this question, because Sam Darnold has always been in Kyle Shanahan's eye. In 2021, he thought about trading for him. They got him for a $3.9 million cap hit. He's going to come in there and compete. There are no favorites anymore for the 49ers in that quarterback room. There are only question marks in there. Brock Purdy's elbow, question mark. Trey Lance's skill, question mark. I mean, can he become more accurate? That's what the 49ers really need. And Sam Darnold, can he sustain the way that he finished that 2022 season with Carolina? I think all 3 quarterbacks are going to come in and compete, and the 49ers have an extra dart to throw at the wall with Sam Darnold. And with an extra dart, you have one extra chance to hit the bullseye at the quarterback position. A late round pick on a Charles Omenihu type trade. Well, that's where your player scouting department comes in. You got to figure out, which edge rusher do you want to pair with Nick Bosa and especially with Chris Kasarik. They identified Charles Omenihu as that type of guy, made that trade. Problem is, a lot of these trades are hard to make unless it's before the deadline during the season. Harder to make that trade for that kind of cost in the offseason. The price is going to drop during the season right before the deadline. That's why they call it deadline pressure. All right, guys, good 47-minute, 30-second show. We're going to make this a 49-minute show for the 49ers because we're covering the 49ers. The Slay situation, staying with Philly, that's kind of crazy. It's like, demands more money. Imagine this. You go to your boss, you demand more money, a bigger contract. Your boss says, no, I'm going to fire you instead. That's what happened this morning. But they didn't actually file the paperwork to fire him. And then the Eagles turn around and say, never mind. This was just kind of like an argument, boyfriend-girlfriend argument kind of thing. Let's come back to the table after cooler heads have prevailed. Maybe we can work this out. But there obviously have to be some uncomfortable, hard feelings because there obviously was a disagreement over money here just a few hours ago. But the Eagles, they don't stand to save that much by releasing Darius Slay. They would have to do a whole post-June 1st designation and save some of the dead money, half of it for later. And he's a good corner. He's their best corner. I mean, they re-signed Bradbury. He's not as good of a corner as Darius Slay. So it doesn't make any sense to lose your best corner if it doesn't financially help you that much. And I think that's what Howie Roseman realized over the course of the day. Definitely a weird situation. Oh, there are a lot of questions to be asked. Trey Lance might be the starter, but there are a lot of questions he has to answer. And there are a lot of questions to be asked. Trey Lance, number 3 overall pick. That's great, Trey. So Sam Darnold, former number 3 overall pick. Nobody cares about draft status anymore. People care about QB quality. They care about accuracy. They care about decision-making. Those are all things, and they care about health, right? Availability. Those are all things that are going to have to be determined over the course of this offseason and training camp. All right, taking a look here. There's a super chat. I'm going to answer this one. Do players getting picked up by other teams free up salary cap space? Gold did post unfinished business after the NFC Championship. I think he comes back. That's a good point. you might be onto something there. I think he was bluffing when he said he wouldn't kick for San Francisco anymore. No, they don't. Other players getting picked up by other teams don't free up salary cap space. They take the salary cap space from other teams, unless a team trades for that player, in which case his contract moves off of one team's books and to the acquiring team's books. Now, as far as cap space goes, and players leaving, you get a comp pick. And the comp pick formula is complicated, but if the guy signs for a lot of money with another team after his contract is expired with you, that's when it could factor into the compensatory formula, and you could get up to 4 comp picks per season. All right, got your super chat. Thanks for reminding me. That was good. And hey, Trey Lance might be good. I agree. Nobody's road is paved clear. You got to compete for stuff in the NFL. Nothing is given. It must be earned. All right, everybody, sub to the channel. Check out all the work that we put up on The Athletic. Another good day of 49ers free agency. First day of the new league year was today. We'll move on to the second day of the new league year tomorrow. 49ers just under $10 million in salary cap space. 57 spots filled on the 90-man roster. Will they make it 58, 59, 60 tomorrow? Who knows? You got an active day ahead of us, and we're looking forward to it. Everybody, take care. Great seeing you.